I think Ivan Demidov will be. I've watched him a lot. Slam dunk 100-point player.
Slam dunk 100-point player.
Slam dunk 100%.
Like lock it in.
Lock it in. Lock it in.
Like
Lock
after Connor McDavid, you're drafting Ivan Demidov with the second. Like if you have the second pick in an NHL fantasy draft, and McDavid is first off the board.
No, I said slam dunk 100-point player.
Yeah,
How many 100-point players were there in the league last year? Was it like 15?
Yeah, I was going to say a dozen, but yeah.
A dozen? I don't know. I haven't looked.
No, I mean, I know the Kucherovs and the McDavids and the 130s to the 150.
Draisaitl's, like there's a lot of guys, the Kaprizov, there's a lot of guys that can hit 100 points in a season. But I mean, we haven't seen a Montreal Canadiens player have 100 points in a season since Matt Naslund was the last one.
Matt Naslund was the last guy.
So,
well, that's the other thing. Like I'm ready for us to rewrite history. Like Stéphane Richer, last 50 guy, Matt Naslund, last 100 guy. Like that was in the mid 80s, brother.
Yep.
We got to go back to the 80s.
So that's what I'm telling you. Demidov will be the first 100-point guy since Matt Naslund.
Let's go.
I'm convinced.
Let's go.
I was talking about Demidov on my show since last January.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man, like Macklin Celebrini is the best rookie in the league right now.
Yeah.
He is. You could talk about Hudson, you could talk about Mishkov. That's because Celebrini missed the first handful of games and people don't watch San Jose. Celebrini's the best rookie in the league, bar none. Demidov's a better offensive talent than Celebrini is.
My goodness, because I mean, listen, that's a bold statement because I've seen my fair share of Celebrini this season, and he's coming off a weekend where this guy looked magic.
I know. Yep.
The vision, the pace, the thinking on the ice in real time. That's to me is so impressive, and I think I've only appreciated that as I've gotten older is the processing, how they process these athletes, how they process and then execute. And I mean, this guy's so young; he's coming out of NCAA Division I hockey into the show, and he looks like a guy who's comfortable. Mitch, you know how hard that is to look comfortable.
And again, it's not that I'm saying anything negative about Celebrini. I just said he's the best rookie in the league. And
yeah.
I'm not even saying that Demidov is a better player. It's not what I said, right? Like, and it's not semantics when I say something like this. I'm telling you that Demidov's the better offensive talent. I'm not saying he's the better player. I think Celebrini is the better player. Celebrini went first. Celebrini is a little bit more diverse in his play. Celebrini is a more cerebral player. He is better defensively. But I'm telling you, Demidov's a better offensive talent, and that's what Montreal was really starving for. If I was Montreal at the last draft and I had the first overall pick, I would have selected Ivan Demidov.
I love it because
simple as that.
It gets me to believe in the future of the rebuild. If what you're saying is even close to being true, even close, that with the core of this team, between who we're talking about here, Lane Hutson, as he gets older and gets better, and then distributing the puck to Demidov, and where's Cole Caulfield's goal scoring and level of comfort, and him rounded out as a player, Caden Gooley as a nice stabilizer on the back end. I don't know if Jacob Fowler's in the equation at this point, but like it's the pieces are starting to be put together. And so when we talk about Lane Hutson, I've been saying this for a minute. Like, I believe with his unique skill set and what he brings and his habits on the ice, it's going to take some time for all of his teammates that share space with him on the ice to learn his habits, right? And so David Savard, obviously not part of the future. Do the Canadiens today have the right defensive pair for Lane Hutson? Someone that you can see being paired with 48, that they could grow together?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Nobody in the organization, nobody on the roster, nobody in the wings waiting, nobody.
Right. So who is that defenseman? What abilities does that partner need to bring with them to be paired with Hudson?
Well, let's take a look around at similar style of defensemen to Lane Hutson and what they work with currently. And again, I'm not saying that Lane Hutson is going to be as good as these players. It's the style of play. All right. And the two I'll go to immediately are Quinn Hughes and Cale Makar. All right. So if you look at Quinn Hughes and Cale Makar, Quinn Hughes plays with Philip Hronek, and Cale Makar plays with Devon Toews. Now, the interesting about both players, Devon Toews and Philip Hronek, is they both did not start their careers with those organizations. So Philip Roenick started with Detroit, and Devin Taves started with the New York Islanders. And those general managers of the Avalanche and the Canucks were able to identify a specific type of player to play with their offensive dynamo as a defensive partner. And that's what the Canadiens need to do for Lane Hutson. They have to go outside the organization. Unfortunately, I think a guy that would have been really good in that role is Kovacevic. And inexplicably, the Canadiens traded him. I still don't get that one. I thought Kovacevic was something that's very hard to find, a stable right-handed shot defenseman. And the Canadiens actually got him from another organization. So I think it would have been very similar. And I think right now, if you look at different defensive pairings across the league, lowest expected goals against, I believe Kovacevic's tandem in New Jersey is actually second best in the league right now. But anyways, I digress. We don't have to get into Kovacevic here. It's crying over spilt milk. It's finished. But I think they have to look at what the Islanders and what the Canucks and the Avalanche were able to do for Cale Makar and Quinn Hughes, and apply something similar here for Lane Hutson. Go outside the organization, find a steady right-hand shot defenseman to play with Lane Hutson.
Because they're going to have to come to some sort of judgment pretty soon, right? Like, I'm not a rumor monger, but every now and again I hear stuff. And, we could talk about Arber Xhekaj and his future with the organization. Jaden Struble, who I believe might be on the block, someone that they're giving an opportunity to, again, I guess, re-audition to see if they can convince the Canadiens front office that they're a part of the future moving forward. And I believe that the Arber Xhekaj, Jaden Struble, I believe that these guys, between you and I and everyone else, I believe they've got probably a 30-game window this season for management basically to decide, are we going to dangle these guys in a March 7th potential trade and see if there's anything there or not? And so is that how the Canadiens go out and pair Lane Hutson's ideal partner in your eyes? And so the follow-up would be, are Xhekaj's potential and or Struble's potential good enough to maybe bring that transaction closer to home?
Yeah. Here's what I'll say, and I know, having listened to my show, that I'm not as enamored with Arber Xhekaj's game as the average Montreal Canadian fan is.
I took a lot of heat for some Arber, but I'm coming around a little. I got to call it down the middle, brother. He has played better.
Yeah. He has played better. And
yes.
I understand the passion of fans, and I understand why they love Arber Xhekaj. The Canadiens have been a small team. They've been a team that's been pushed around, and they haven't had a type of guy like Arber Xhekaj in a long, long time.
Yeah.
I get it. But what I'll ask you, and I also believe that the Canadiens aren't too high on that type of player. I don't know if they believe they need that type of player in the lineup. But what I'll ask you is, if you were running a team right now, from what we've seen,
yes,
if you had to play Arber Xhekaj 15 minutes in a game 7, would you trust him on the ice for those 15 minutes? And my answer right now, from what I've seen,
yes,
would be no.
Yes.
And that's why, maybe you do trade the player if the value is high enough. I wouldn't just get rid of him. But if the value is high enough, and we had Dave Pagnotta on the on Campbell versus Gallo a couple weeks ago, and he said that last season a late first-round pick was offered to the Canadiens for Xhekaj, and they said no. A late first-round pick is not the type of deal I'm talking about at all. I'm talking about something of significance, because a team overvalues that type of player that Xhekaj is. But I'd be willing to listen on Xhekaj, just because I don't know if I can trust him for 15 minutes in a do-or-die playoff game. That's all.